Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Why, now available internationally wherever you access your podcasts. If you haven't seen us before, thank you for joining us. Our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do, and more importantly, how they figured out this is what they're meant to do. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your job, your company, or your life in general. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt similarly and decided to do something about it, whether big or small. And today's guest is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Van Slyke to the show. I've been really looking forward to this since the first time I met her, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. Lisa V is a keynote speaker. She's a corporate trainer and a transformation coach. Gee, I can't imagine why I like her. She's known as the Stop the Spiral expert. Most of y'all know, if you've been with me from the beginning, I'm very passionate about military, and she is a U.S. Army veteran, a master's level educator, and a published author. She brings over 15 years of experience training teams across military, athletic, and corporate environments. Lisa's signature framework, the 3 moves rule, gives high-performing professionals a repeatable system for breaking burnout cycles under pressure. She's a regular contributor in the DWC magazine, reaching over 100 million readers, and has delivered transformational training for organizations including Red Bull, as if who would think that they would need energy, right? Lisa is on a mission to help people stop spiraling and start living on purpose. I've been so looking forward to this, so without further ado, please join with me in welcoming Lisa Van Slyke to the show. So round of applause. Yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to be here.
Like I said, I love all our guests, full disclosure, but depends on what Lisa does. And what I do and my own journey. And as I said to her before, I have no problem teaching other coaching and training experts because we all bring something different to the table.
Yes.
And I absolutely love what you have to say. So we're going to jump right into it
Let's do
after I
it.
ask you the first question that we ask every guest on our show from day one. After reading all of this, I mean, did you really, as a child, think you would be the stop the spiral expert?
Not at all.
Yeah, of course. So, what did little Lisa want to be when she was growing up?
That is a great question. I remember very fondly when I was living in California. I was probably 10 or 11. My sister and I were little mini entrepreneurs. We would take pictures from or coloring pages, glue them onto cardboard, cut them into different shapes, and sell puzzles. And it was just something that we just always liked to explore. We were always creative. We were always out there exploring the world. And what I really wanted to do was either anthropology or teach English as a second language and just travel the world. I have done neither of those, but I feel like maybe along the way, I might not have gone to school to become an anthropologist, but I've always loved studying people. And I've always loved looking back at different cultures and the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Fertile Crescent, and just the way that different cultures and civilizations have come together and merged and morphed. And so, I've done that just kind of on the side and traveling in my own way without, the teaching English as a second language. I've had the opportunity to explore several cultures, particularly within the United States. And it's just been something that, I've enjoyed but no, I did not see myself here today. That's for sure.
Wow. So, which is amazing. And so yes, I'm definitely hearing overlap. Um, so you didn't see yourself here today. So how did you end up finding your way to becoming the stop the spiral expert?
How many businesses do you have sitting in a vault somewhere, or ideas or programs or campaigns that you have created and you never did anything with them?
Mm.
I am that person. I'm also the person that spirals. And in all of my spirals, I found that I would lean towards one thing or I would take this piece of advice from another, but there was never anything that was connected on, okay, well, I've done the breathing techniques. But now what? Now that I'm kind of level, what am I supposed to do next? And that can put you back in another spiral. So I just combined all of these years of my own self-development or my own professional development and put them together, as well as how did I help people when I was the trainer, when I was the boss, when I had this team of people, and we didn't just come in as a robot, do our jobs. We still had all these external things, our family, our parents, our, hobbies, our interests, the economy, whatever the case may be, that could cause people to we're not robots. We're not going to just really be able to come in and focus on that one thing without other stuff going on in the back of our heads. So, what did I do to help people move through that? How did I coach them and train them when they were under my wing? And I kind of just put it all together to help people figure out, okay, but I've done this, now what? And it doesn't heal everything and it doesn't fix it in the moment, but it gives you enough clarity and it gives you enough focus to be able to stop and put it away for a little bit and take the next step. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
Wow. So it sounds like a lot of what you learned, as many coaches and trainers have experienced, came from your own experiences.
Yes.
And to your point, yes, there's so many people out there with those could have beens. So where did you find the courage to, the poem's called the Road Not Taken, but
Yeah.
you chose the road less traveled. So, which is what most people think the poem is. Uh, how did you find the courage to take on entrepreneurship?
That is a wonderful question. I don't know that it was courage so much as I've hit the wall where I don't want to give my time to somebody else. Um, I like the freedom and flexibility. I don't like somebody telling me I can only take 2 weeks of vacation because I'm going to take my vacation even if you don't pay me for it. And,
Mhm.
things along those lines. My parents had me later in life, so they are older. My dad just recently passed. I had a lot of time that I needed to dedicate to him and his care. I'm in and out of hospice, in and out of the hospital, making sure that things were being done and handled properly, not to mention all the estate and everything that comes along with all of that. So, I needed my time. And also, I knew that I had something that I needed to bring to the world. And it really is, how tired are you? How sick and tired are you of being sick and tired? And I don't know that it was necessarily courage, more so than it was something that I needed to do for myself. I felt it really deep down that it was the next
Mhm.
thing I needed to do in life. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Which is awesome. And I should have mentioned this when I was talking about your military service. Thank you for it, by the way. As we approach the 250th anniversary of our country, the work that you're doing is really important these days, especially as companies really grapple with their moral compass.
Mhm.
and you've worked with very large organizations such as Red Bull. Uh, let's talk about your technique, your framework, the three moves rule. So, what exactly does is the three moves rule?
When you're in a spiral, what is the first thing that you think you should do or that you do to try to help you get out of that?
For me, it's a great question since I've been in one of a different kind, positive spiral, but a spiral nonetheless. Uh, stop and breathe. Honestly, uh, thank you, positive intelligence, for that. Stop, breathe, take a micro break, and challenge my thought process around what's going on because I'm one of the many very analytical type of people
Yeah.
who can go into analysis paralysis. And I know that. I've known that for years, but I'm also human.
Yes.
So that is usually the first and foremost thing I do.
Stabilizing yourself is the most important. The breathing, the breath work, and all of that. But then it sounds like you do the next step of spiraling. And for me, I'm the same way. I'm going to research, I'm going to become the subject matter expert in 24 hours. Like I'm going to know everything. I'm going to know who to cross reference. I'm going to know what works, what doesn't. And that can become its own, its own spiral. My process started really with corporate when I full disclosure, I worked with Red Bull and not just in that training piece. I was an employee for them. And there was the role that I had, the role that I had in several um, companies that I had worked with was this, you feel that time pressure and I've got all these things that I have to do. I have to check all this list off before I can even go for the day. And there were times I found myself having a panic attack, hiding under my desk so nobody would see me. Fortunately, I had my own office, but still nonetheless, or you call that person on the phone and you vent for hours. Why are you letting it take that much more energy from you? Because honestly, at the end of the day, it is just a paycheck and everybody is just doing the best that they can. Unfortunately, when you're sitting at a high position within a company, the only thing you can think of at that time is all of these people depend on me to make this right decision. I have to bring in money. We have this board or we don't have this board, depending on, what type of corporation they are. And so there's all these pressures. And then you can stop and breathe, but then what are you supposed to do? Because you found yourself going into an analysis paralysis. Now you're still overthinking. You're trying to solve this problem when it's deeper than that.
Mhm.
And, we're not I love and light. I love enlightenment, but I feel like we also find a spiral within trying to heal ourselves or find the reason why or sit and resonate with something. And we don't always need to have that playing in the back of our head when we're trying to just survive this timeline because wow, is there a lot going on right now, and you have the family pressure, you have the social life pressure, you have work pressure. There's all these things. And then, the bigger macro aspect of what's going on in the economy, what's going on with social justice and all of these things. And it doesn't matter what side you're on, it's still there in the back of your head. It's still this movie playing somewhere way in the back of your mind. And all you're trying to do is just get the next thing done or take the next step. And so what are you supposed to do after you finally regulate your breathing? Well, one time I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Like I could do the box breathing or I could do the 5-4-3 or whatever method of breathing you want, or I could take some other coaching or bigger picture things and count to 3 and make myself move. But it's still going on in the back of your head. And so, how are you supposed to help quiet the voice? I still haven't figured that part out yet, but I know that when I follow my process, I can make it just, I can think it and I can put it away and I can do the next step and I can do the next step. And I can say, when I can get back to you, I will come back to you. But it's not my healing time right now. Like right now, I really need to move myself forward. And I love corporation. I love career. I love the idea of the way that the whole economy is working right now. And you have these big companies. Thank you so much to the person who delivers my stuff, from the grocery store. I am
Mhm.
so grateful for that. I am absolutely grateful for that. So it's not that I'm knocking corporations or whatnot. I just found that, for me, there wasn't any, who am I supposed to go to to talk about this with? Like if I go to my boss, they might hold it against me. I was in the
Yeah.
military. You didn't talk about certain things because, oh my gosh, you don't want anybody to think you're weak. So it comes from a whole big process of the journey that I've taken with the different jobs that I've had through the years.
All right. And
Did that
and
answer
and
your
it's
question?
it absolutely did answer my question. We got two of the three moves out. Unless I missed something, which is highly possible. And there's so many good things that you said in there. Everybody really, no one goes to work wanting to do a bad job.
Right.
It's, well, we'll say that that's at least a 90% correct statement.
Yes.
Because there are some people out there that have very interesting agendas. But for the most part, you don't invest time and energy in work to fail.
Right.
Whether it's because you're only doing it to support your family or it's truly your why. I've met some of the most
Exactly.
passionate people in roles that other people are like, why do you love that job? It's because they realize that there's a greater purpose to it.
Yeah.
And part of what I'm hearing is well, not part of what I'm hearing. I'm actually hearing that your purpose evolved through your own experiences, of course, and recognizing that you could help other people do the same. So we stop and we pause, we gather and kind of analyze and process the data. And to your point, and one of the things I talk about in my practice even is now you have to move through it. Like you can't just stay there with the data. I jokingly said something to somebody the other day where I compiled, I actually calculated the amount of time I had spent with this person in just like a week time span. And I said, jokingly said, and you know me, if you want, I can put it in a spreadsheet. And because I left out certain aspects, persons know me a long time, they kind of laugh. But uh, sometimes we get stuck in analysis paralysis because we
Yeah.
actually are kind of afraid to move forward.
Yes.
And so let's kind of focus on okay, how do we get out of that? Like, because it's real easy to say, let's move through it.
It is really easy to say, let's move through it. You and I were talking right before you hit the record button. And one of the things that you had mentioned, there's many different spirals. Um, what does a spiral look like? That can be different for everybody. For me, my spiral was I was in the spiral and I ignored it or I didn't want to face it. So, I am a recovering alcoholic. I have been sober for over 6 years, a little over 6 years, and it's one of the most powerful things I have ever done for myself. Let's start with that. How do you stop the spiral? For me, the spiral was always the bottle, and it was something that I relied on. It was my best friend, and I hate to say it like that, but like at one point in my life, I felt like the only thing I could rely on was knowing that there was going to be a bottle there for me, at 7 o'clock at night when it was time to unwind for the day. And so it became a regular routine. When I decided that I had just had enough, I had to break my routine. I had to say, I put my foot down. I've been talking about stopping this for a couple of years now. It's really not something I want to do anymore, even though I was saying that to myself. I was still drinking, right? Like you have the devil and the angel on your shoulder, if you will. I was saying, don't do this. You don't want to do this. Why are you doing this? As I was, taking the drink of alcohol. So for me, I finally made the decision that I really wanted to stop. And in order to stop, I had to stop some of the behaviors that were part of the drinking. I took a different route going home, so I didn't always go to my favorite liquor store. I stopped going out on my balcony at night because part of that was I would go out there and I would have a couple of drinks and I would end up with more than a couple of drinks and I would, then fall into the bottle, right? Whereas the woe is me and I was listening to the sad music and the all of these things, and I wasn't processing what I really needed to process with the emotions. I thought, oh, listening to this music is helping me through this. And then, when you do it for 6 months and you're not any further along than where you should be, and work is coming home with you and you're spending 3 hours, like, why am I here? Why do I let these people treat me this way? Or whatever the case may be. I had to change a lot of the behaviors around that. That was a really long process. But when I made the decision to stop doing it and I started to change those behaviors, eventually the changed behaviors, the other things that I did became that habit and that routine. And I was able to not crave or want to stop at the liquor store. I was able to actually start walking down over in the beer section or whatever, because some stores, it's not separate from the rest of the groceries, so you have to pass by it. And I'd be like, you look at all these pretty bottles and all this, aren't those good for them, but I never really wanted to actually purchase any of the alcohol. I found that when there were times that I did, the breathing and the just trying to stabilize myself. What's wrong? What do I need to do for myself? Do I need to take time right now to nurture and comfort myself? Or am I just trying to fall back into an old routine, an old habit? Like, what do I need to do for myself? So I found stabilizing gives you the physiological response. It makes your head a little bit more clear so you can determine what is the underlying cause of this right now? What is it that I need to do for myself? Do I really need to go on a healing retreat or call my therapist or call my coach? Or, you know what? Can I just say, got it? I'll talk to you later, and not ignore it because we just said, hey, look, I see you. I hear you. What part of my past needs to be healed right now? Okay, we'll sit down later, when it's time to journal or whatever. Or is there something bigger that I need to do for myself right then? A lot of times you can't get up and walk away, but you can just. And that right there, if you take the right kind of breath, if you really get that deep belly breath and you take it all in, then, and you take another breath and you take another breath to stabilize yourself. That is the most important thing, is stabilizing yourself, and then figuring out from there, do I need to take a little bit more time, or is this something that I can process later so that I can just take the next best thing? And you're not trying to figure out how to paint the whole picture. You're just picking up the paintbrush. So, yeah.
There's so many things that you said in there that are so important. So many things. Um, Not the least of which is you have your own therapist and your own coach. As do coaches, therapists tend to go see other coaches and therapists, in part because the work we do is the result of us having moved through our own challenges.
Yes.
And so, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to do what you did in terms of
Oh,
recognizing that, and so I'm going to say it and then I'm going to back it up a little bit more. Recognizing that you were in a spiral and that there was something else that was triggering it. Because, and I've had this conversation a lot recently, because so many people are looking for solutions externally to things that can only be found internally. And that shows up in many different ways. And so I've had the honor of speaking with a number of people who have overcome various addictions. Um, some of whom still refer to them with that title, some who look at it as something that they experienced, which is in a non-judgmental way how I tend to look at those things.
that's
Because
how
for
I look
me,
at it too.
yeah, because for me, at one point it was food. At another point, it was anorexia, bulimia. So I've had different
Yeah.
struggles. I have addictions on both sides of my family. But the biggest thing, and I want to really point out what you said, that's not the problem. That is a symptom
Yes.
of the problem. And we're really, because you said it, I want to make sure people clear. That is a symptom of something else. And any kind of hyper behavior, whether it's drinking, drugs, sex, food, religion, exercise. Somebody I know who's going to exercise bulimia. Um, whatever that may be, when we are hyper something, using something to fill a need, that isn't the problem itself. That is a symptom of the problem. And you got to the symptom and some of the symptoms of your problem. But it didn't mean that it went away. It just reframed how you approach life.
Yes.
So let's talk more about that because you have this amazing impact on so many people. And you're a regular contributor to a magazine that has over 100 million reader distribution. And whether you worked there at the time, whatever, you've worked with Red Bill. We both worked for the government, different capacities, but you're on a mission to help people live with purpose. What does that mean once they've kind of recognized the spiral, which is very real?
You asked me a question at the very beginning of the show. What did my younger self want to do? What was it that lit me up? And what is it that still somewhere in the back of your mind lights you up? For me, it's music. I cannot sing. I can. I have the physical ability to sing. It just does not sound good when it comes out, right? But I love music. I love to move. I love to dance. I love to just I'm one of those sensitive types that can just connect to different pieces of music and I actually absorb the mood from that, right? I absorb the emotion. But that was something that I didn't get to do when I was a child. I was raised in a very you talked about your schoolhouse. I was in the same schoolhouse. It was a very small school. It was a very private school, but it was a private school that was religious affiliated. And it
Yes.
was, I grew up in a very strict environment. And, um, there was a psalm that dance for the Lord. And I never even saw people do that when I was coming up. It was very women had a certain place, they had a certain role, and
Yes.
there's certain things that you do and certain
Yes.
things that you don't. So
Hmm.
the exploration, the getting on my bike and going and exploring and playing all these make-believe games, that was my child self
Hmm.
trying to heal or trying to cope. And it just kind of became a thing. Think about what you did as a child. We all have experiences that we wanted to escape from. Some were way more horrific than others, but we all have these experiences that we wanted to escape from. And for me, the idea of exploration, even just in my neighborhood, we traveled a lot and we loved to go and see what we could while we were there. So it was developed at a very young age. And I found that as I got older, my escape for a time was a bottle. It was the alcohol that I was trying to escape from, or it was trying to make myself somebody that I wasn't so that I
Hmm.
could appease whoever I was with at the time, or the role that I thought that I was supposed to be in. And I really struggled with who am I in this partnership, but who am I also outside of the partnership? And I took on these roles. I told you I'm very much that empath that can just absorb the
Yes.
things. And I thought that I was supposed to be one way. And so I tried to make myself be that way. And it was miserable. Oh my God. It
Hmm.
was absolutely miserable. It was obviously who I was supposed to be with at the time to teach me some kind of lesson. But I found that I was repeating those lessons a lot. And I found out, the hard way, that it was because I just wasn't listening to my soul. Now, am I saying go and leave the relationship you're in? Absolutely not. Unless you're unsafe, then please go. But you know, I didn't have to lose myself in these relationships. I really didn't. I feel like there was enough permission, or there would have been enough permission. And I don't use the word permission as in you can do this. I use the word permission as in allowing myself because somebody else would be okay with it. Um, that there was enough space for me to be able to become who I wanted to be, but I just didn't know how to do that. And so that's why I do what I do, because there's enough for everybody. And it's not, it's okay. if you have to shift course or put your foot down or establish these boundaries so that you can give yourself a little bit more than what you're giving yourself now. And I'm not saying that you need to go and just upheave everything and, leave a relationship and separate children from parents or whatever, or quit your job. I'm not saying that you have to do any of that, but I feel like we don't know how to balance, particularly now. There's just so much, and we're being fed so much all the time. You can't get away from anything anymore. You can walk in the grocery store and somebody's listening to the news out loud right there on their phone, or they're having a, very animated conversation, or you get it on the radio, or you open up your phone and you're just bombarded with all of these things that it's hard to get away from. So um, where do you find that time for yourself to allow yourself to really step into the version that you always thought you wanted to be? And how do you find that clarity? So that's why I do what I do, because I struggled with it myself.
Wow. And, and I still can't believe it. Every time we get to like the 30-minute mark, I'm like, how are we already at the 30-minute mark? And I knew this would be one of those conversations. And again, so many important things that you just said, because some people want it to happen immediately, and it's a journey, and it really is about the journey. And even the scariest of stories, there's a comfort there, otherwise we wouldn't be stuck there. And so, there are people who are watching and listening this to our conversation from around the world who are saying, yeah, that all sounds great, but I've tried. And, admittedly for me, a part of it was recognizing that try is a verb, not a noun, not an adjective, it's a verb. And so the essence of resilience is just keep trying, even if it's not working for you. So for the people out there who maybe whether the fear of change is still stronger than the fear of staying the same, or they're not quite ready, because even the best change still means letting go of part of your story. And maybe they're not quite there yet. What suggestions or advice or encouragement can you offer to those listeners and viewers who are there?
I'm going to throw every cliche that I can think of at you right now. It is not a marathon. You have to crawl before you can walk. It's really not the road less traveled. You brought that up at the beginning. Think about how many people forged that path before you. And
Mm,
you might be the first in your family,
yeah.
or, the first in your company, but somebody else somewhere has had some experience with being the first. And there's so many communities out there now. I said, gosh, we're bombarded by all of these things like the internet and all of this, but there's some good out there too. There's communities
Yes.
you can join. You can, join a Facebook group that provides support. There's Reddit is a great place to go to get some forum, and it's not necessarily a community like Facebook, but they're still going to get feedback, and you're still going to be able to find out who's done that. And you and I have both advocated therapy, coach. I do both. I absolutely 100% will continue that for the rest of my life. And, just it is the small step. You have to just, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. You're not painting the whole picture. You're just picking up the brush. What is that one small thing that you can do right now to just shift the trajectory? That's it, because you're not trying to solve the whole problem. You're just trying to solve, how do I take that first step? And you don't need to just take the step. One of my favorite phrases is ready, fire, aim. And it is, you know, some of the people that I admire the most and some of the people that I watch the most to just help me on my own journey, they don't think about things. I watched somebody who took $100 and ended up with from scratch. How would he build a company with just $100? And he turned it into a subscription box. And before he even knew what was going to go in the box, he had 100 people buy the box. What? I would never have been able to do that. Like, I have to know what the color of the box is going to look like, what's going to go in the box. I'm going to wrap it with tissue. What's the website going to look like? And you know what? How many times have you turned that kind of stuff over? And what have you done with it? Where are you now? Have you made any sales? Have you taken the business and actually put it out there for anybody to know about?
Mm.
Or did you just go and do what this guy did and take your $100 and set up a lead page, a landing page that drove traffic and got people to buy before you even knew what was going to go in the box? Just got
Wow.
to take the first step. You don't have to know the answer to the problem because there's a lot of steps along the way to solve that problem. Just take the first one.
Hmm. And then it gets a little bit easier each time. Thank you so much. There's so many amazing things. I go back and watch my shows anyway. Um, but this is one I hope those of you who are listening will go back and really reflect on some of the things that Lisa and some other folks that we've had on that do this work. And especially for those of us who grew up in very different, but there's many different forms of hyper controlling environments that contribute to why people go down some of these paths in the first place. Uh, and so that said, all of Lisa's contact information is going to be available in the information below where you're accessing this episode. But for those who are audio listeners that would like to know the easiest way to get in contact with you, what's the best way to find you?
You can email me at hello@thelisav.com, but all socials, reach out in a DM. I'm more than happy to have a conversation. And my handle is the Lisa V on all of them. And then you can go to my website, thelisav.com. You can get on my wait list for my book that is hopefully launching in July. So, July 2026. So yeah, you can find me almost everywhere.
Awesome. So we'll have to have you back when it becomes a bestseller.
Oh, thank you. I would love that.
We're going to put that right out there.
Yes, let's.
Which for us right now, we are booked. We've got so many amazing guests.
Awesome.
So we'll have you back in like a year.
That would be
Won't be a
perfect.
whole year, but it'll be perfect timing for when your book starts bringing in the awards. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here to share your experience, your story, and your wisdom and expertise with all of our amazing viewers and listeners who are worldwide now.
Well, thank you so much for having this show. It's very important work that you're doing, and I appreciate you having me on to be part of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, and for those of you who aren't familiar with DWC Magazine, you can access that from Lisa's information as well. And so thank you again, Lisa. And to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you. This has been quite the 5-year journey, something that I've said before I never thought I would actually do. And so this was part of my disruptor, because that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about disrupting the status quo in baby steps, or as I like to say, baby Grogu steps. And but for all of you, wherever you are, thank you so much for joining us and for supporting us. And if you are finding benefit from these conversations, please tell others about us so that they can find benefit from these really amazing people and the conversations that we're having with all of these amazing guests. And always remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life, your career, your company, whatever that may be, we've got amazing, amazing experts that we feature, like Lisa. And we know that so many of our viewers and listeners out there are seeking a different path. So tune in again to learn from those who've done it, who've trailblazed, who made that road less traveled, to find their purpose and to live it.